Hi, in this video we're going to use Pythagoras theorem to find the shortest distance between two-dimensional points. Now let's just suppose we had 2 points like this, 3, 1 and 8, 4. How could we find this shortest distance between them like this? Well, what we could do is we could form a right angled triangle. So if we were to consider this horizontal length here and this vertical length here, then we know that's a right angled triangle. But what are the lengths of this right angled triangle? Well, we can see that this length here is the difference between the x-coordinates, because this x-coordinate is 3, this x-coordinate is the same as that x-coordinate, which is 8, and therefore this length is going to be the difference between these two x values, so the difference from the 3 to the 8. So we can see that length is going to be 5, and then this distance here is just going to be the difference between the y values. So this y value 1 and this y value 4. So we can see that difference is 3. And then we could use Pythagoras theorem to find this length here, which is the shortest distance we want. So let's call that distance d. Then by Pythagoras theorem, we could say that one of the shorter lengths squared, so the 3 squared, plus the other shorter length squared, so the 5 squared, is equal to the length of the hypotenuse squared. Remember, the hypotenuse is the longest length of the right angled triangle opposite the right angle. So that is equal to d squared. And then if we just square root both sides, the distance d is the square root of 3 squared plus 5 squared, whatever that is. Now, more generally, if we have 2 points and we want to find the distance between them, the distance d, then what we do is we find this change in the x value. We can use a Greek letter here. The change in x, that's the Greek letter delta. It looks like a triangle. It just means change in. So this just means change in. So we find the change in x and we find the change in y value between the two coordinates. And then by Pythagoras theorem, that we got the distance is the square root of the change in x squared plus the change in y squared. So that is the key formula that we need to use here. Right, so let's apply that to these coordinates here. So we've got -2, 2, and we've got 1 minus 4, and we want to find this distance between them here, 1 minus 4. Now, what's the change in x? Well, the change in x from -2 to 1, you can see that change is 3. So the change in x is 3. And what's the change in y? Well, from 2 to -4, it's going down by 6. But to be honest, when you do the change in, because you're going to be squaring it here, we don't care whether it's positive or negative. So this change is 6. And then we can just use our formula. The distance between those 2 points is the square root of the change in x squared, which is 3, so 3 squared, plus the change in y squared, so 6 squared, or -6 squared, but you're going to get the same value. And then just do that in your calculator, the square root of 3 squared plus 6 squared, and that is equal to 6.7. And how many decimal places? 1 decimal place, so it's just 6.7 units. And that is the final answer.